Hello, everybody, and welcome to Boston Balling. I am your host, Gabby Hurlbut, and happy Tuesday. I almost forgot what day it was. At this point, I just don't even know what day it is anymore. Hope everybody's having a great start to the week, and I appreciate you being here, tuning into my show, as I do have a very special guest with me today, who is super accomplished, only a high school student, but just got back from the Paris Olympics competing for swimming. And she is from Massachusetts. So, a perfect guest to have on the show today. Zuri Ferguson, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. And, I really appreciate you hopping on the show with me. I think your story is super cool and just how much you've accomplished in such a short period of time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Um, yeah, no, I know we were just talking about how the school year is quickly approaching for you, but what a story you'll have to tell people when you go back to school. I mean, about the summer
Yeah.
you had.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm ready for it, but
Yeah,
we'll
right.
tackle that when the time comes.
I know, right? But yeah, so obviously, swimming is something that you're super passionate about. Can you talk a little bit about kind of when you got started in the sport and when you really fell in love with it?
Yeah, so I started lessons when I was 3. My parents just thought it was important I knew how to swim and I was comfortable in and around the water. And from there, it pretty much just stuck. I joined my first team when I was 5, just at a local Y team. And then when I was around, I think 9 or 10-ish, is when I switched to my current team, Bluefish. And I've just been on that team since.
That's so cool. I mean, starting at such a young age like that,
Yeah.
you really get committed for
Yes.
a
Yeah.
long time and you're just, you're just in it. You're just committed at that point.
hmm
Who have been some of the swimmers that you have really looked up to that you've maybe seen whether they've competed on the Olympic level or just people who do
hmm
it professionally that you kind of always like to enjoy watching?
Yeah. From since I was little, one of my favorite swimmers has been Simone Manuel. Just watching her whole journey has been super inspiring to me, and I've always wanted to be just like her. But also, as I've gotten older, seeing people who swim my race, like Reagan Smith, for example, watching her swim is always so great.
Yeah. No, it's always crazy to me too, even like watching the Olympics, just how good these people are and just
I
really
know.
how fast
Yeah.
these people go. It's insane, really.
So impressive.
Yeah, it really is. And I know for you, so your primary stroke is backstroke, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's like the one that would you find yourself like that's like your strength compared to the other ones, compared to the other strokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much so when did you kind of start specializing primarily in that stroke and kind of focusing less on the other ones?
Um, uh, I would say with maybe around middle school is when you'll see people kind of taking the direction of whatever stroke there is their best or event is their best. But I still do train all the other strokes, especially on my club. They have it find it very important that all of your strokes are getting trained. You're not just overly focusing on one, and you're able to do other events if you need to. So still train everything, but focus on backstroke.
No, that's really nice. Yeah, because some of them are so hard, and I feel like it takes
hmm
so much precision and skill to get that good at one
Yeah.
stroke.
Yeah.
So what does your training schedule look like? I know, obviously, having been to the Olympics, it's probably an increased training schedule. So what exactly did that all look like for you?
Yeah, for me, I train 7 days a week for about 2 to 2.5 hours each. And I also lift twice a week as well for an hour each. And that's been my schedule for probably the past year or so. Um, we
Wow.
don't do doubles because we just don't have the pool time for it. So that's the makeup for it is kind of partially why we do 7 days as well. But I've gotten into the groove of it, so it's not too bad anymore.
Yeah, right. No, it's you get used to it after a while that that's just your routine.
Yeah, yeah.
So how exactly does the process work of qualifying for the Olympics? Like how is there a specific process you take or path you have to go through of saying, okay, like I want to compete in the Olympics?
Yeah, so since I was competing for a smaller country, it is slightly different. For those smaller countries who tend to not have as much swimmers as like the US, Canada, Australia, those more powerhouse countries, for them, it's just if you swim a certain time, then you can go. They
Wow.
do have like a time standard that you have to make to be able to go, but that's the main difference from a smaller country like Trinidad compared to like the US where they have their meet to qualify and where people swim and just battle each other to make it. Whereas in those other some of those other countries, it's just time is time.
Okay. That's pretty cool though. And yeah, I know. What was that like for you being able to represent your country like that? Like are both of your parents from there?
Yes, yeah. It
Yeah.
was really cool because I've been back to Trinidad tons of times, and I still have a bunch of family living there, so to be able to represent both them and my parents, such a great feeling.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's definitely something that is indescribable, really. And even just from
Mhm.
watching this all on TV and just how many athletes there are, and like watching the opening ceremony, it's like, wow, there are so many talented athletes here. Like, it's got to be so cool to just be among really the best in the world, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, yeah, it was such a cool feeling knowing that everyone has put in the like, so much work into their sport and have dedicated basically so much of their lives
Yeah.
to getting to that point, so it's super cool.
Yeah, when you were actually there, I'm definitely curious about kind of what your day to day looked like while you were in Paris, because obviously you're not competing all day, every day. So, what do you
Mhm.
kind of do in your downtime when you're not competing?
Yeah, they did have, some areas so you could, like, congregate and meet some of the other athletes, so I would tend to go down there and see who I can meet, and they do have a bunch of TVs up as well, so I could go watch some of the other sports go on and just soak in as much as I could.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's cool to be able to watch the other sports too
Oh,
because there's
yeah.
so many different sports that are played in the
Mhm.
Olympics and it's like, wow, like, some of these people you wouldn't really get to watch otherwise.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you in terms of the structure of kind of, where you're located, like while you're there, and I know where you're staying, you're among other athletes, but are you primarily staying with athletes only representing your country, or are you kind of mixed in with other people?
They do have you staying with your own country, at least for us, they put, everyone is in multiple different buildings. The bigger countries have tend to have their own building or at least share a building with like one other country, but we had a building of like 5, 6 other countries, and I stay in the dorm room itself with just my country.
Okay, but that's great though because you get to kind of bond with those people, and I'm sure you were meeting all
Yeah.
these different people that you didn't know before.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that like just being there for the opening ceremony and like all of these emotions going through your head of like, wow, like I'm here and just like being able to go out there like for the opening ceremony entrances and like be representing your country? Like, what was that experience like?
You see, that was a very, I would say, unique experience because I feel like it, at least from how it looked, you got to see a lot more of it on TV than you could from being on the boats himself. While being on the boat was fun, you also can't really see the other countries go by. And since we were also in the back half of the boats, we can't see all of the other performances and stuff going on. So I didn't get to see any of it of what was going on earlier, and I only saw the 2 other countries that were on my boat as well. But I had a
Oh,
great
wow.
time regardless.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because I feel like when
Yeah.
you watch it on TV, it seems
Mhm.
like the athletes see more than they actually might see
Yeah,
when they're out there.
definitely the first few boats of countries, they actually have the opportunity to come out and there's a little seating area at the end of I guess, right after where they got out from, and they can watch the rest of the boats come by and I guess see some of the performances as well. But since we were on the boat lower down the river, we didn't get to see all that going on, but it was still a great time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it was definitely, yeah, and they're probably so excited just
Oh
to
yeah,
even be there and, like, trying to soak
yeah,
in all of what's happening.
hmm yeah,
Um,
it was great.
and even too, like, I feel like that opening ceremony was cool because you got to see so many different parts of Paris. Like, there were just so many,
Oh
like,
yeah, hmm
iconic Paris things that you probably got to go by when you were on the boat.
oh yeah, yeah. And when we were ending up, we end right under the Eiffel Tower. So I got some pretty cool pictures of me like with it, with the rings there too. It was super cool.
That is so cool. I know, yeah, like, I'm definitely gonna have to, check out some of those pictures that you took. Did your was your family on the boat with you?
No, no, that was just athletes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if
I
that
don't
was a
think they got to go on the very side of the river, but they were in like a restaurant nearby.
okay, yeah, so they weren't allowing the families on the boats with you.
No.
Okay, that's interesting. I was always curious about that. Um,
Yeah.
and how long did the opening ceremony actually last for? Like, are you like, was there a long time where you were waiting before your boat even started to move?
Oh yeah. We were probably in the back before, like just docked for a good hour, maybe hour and a half. And then once we actually did start going, that also took really long. And there were about like 3 or 4 times when they were like, "Oh yeah, guys, come out. There's you guys are going to be on the cameras now. The camera boat's right ahead. Come out." So we had so many false alarms, and then eventually it started raining, so we had those false alarms in the rain. Um, but yeah,
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of waiting around, I feel like, because
yeah.
it's even watching it, like, I mean, it lasted 4 hours just watching the live
Mhm.
show on TV, so it's like, I was always wondering, like, what do these athletes actually do when they're waiting
Yeah.
their turn to actually go? Because there's probably a lot of just waiting.
Yeah. We did have a few of the kids, pull up on their phones, like, the live stream of what was going on, so we kinda had more of an idea how lo far along the alphabet they were and when we were coming up.
Wait, that's smart. That's a good way to kinda know, like, do we still have a ways to go, or are we coming up soon?
Yeah. Like, there was a
No,
time when we checked and, like, they told us we were passing by the cameras and they were still on, like, D or something. So,
that's funny. I know it's tough when, like, when you're in the back half of the alphabet.
yeah. Yeah.
'Cause then you're always going towards the end.
Yeah.
Um, so how did you kind of, like, calm your nerves through this whole thing? Because I can imagine it's probably super nerve-wracking, like, even watching on TV, they'll zoom in on athletes who just look
Mhm.
terrified, like, "Oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I'm about to, like, race in the Olympics." Like, how do you kind of,
Yeah.
like, get through those nerves?
I mean, surprisingly, I wasn't as nervous as I expected to be, which I was super happy about. So it wasn't too much of an issue to try and keep everything in check. I was more focusing on taking in the moment and just letting myself have fun because I was finally like achieving my one of my big, I guess, I guess end goal, but it's not really the end, but one of my
Right, no, I know what
biggest
you mean.
goals.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was just there getting to experience and live through it, I guess kinda kept my nerves aside and just allowed me to have fun and enjoy the moment and enjoy racing.
Yeah, it's just like it's one of those things where it's like you have to enjoy it because it goes so
Mhm.
quick that it's like,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it's over.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because the nerves I could imagine are just a big part of it in general, but I feel like with you
Mhm.
being a competitive swimmer, like, the nerves kind of are more natural. They just you know what I mean? Like, you kind of
Mhm.
eventually just kind of learn to manage that in general. I just wasn't sure if because it was like a bigger stage that it would be more nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I was expecting to be a lot more nervous because I sometimes do get super, super nervous before my races. So, for this one, I was a lot more calm than I was expecting, but I also do think it played into how young I was on that stage, so it's, like, no expectations, so I got to have fun.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. Were you one of the youngest competitors, for swimming? I feel like you probably were.
I do think I was in the younger area. I wanna say there were probably some, like, 16, maybe 15-year-olds,
Wow.
but yeah, it's
That's so
crazy.
That is really crazy, actually. um, yeah, no, it sounds like such a fun experience just being there and being able to, interact with a lot of different people and meet people that are doing other sports and kind of just
Mhm,
figure out their journeys and how they got to be on that stage. And it's like super cool just to watch everything unfold. How many so when I'm watching it, like a lot of times they don't show every race, right? Because they just have so
mhm.
many different sports that they're kind of bouncing around on TV. But when
Yeah.
you go there for your race, like, are there a ton of other, 100-meter backstroke heats that you have to wait to play out before you race? Or do you just kind of show up shortly before your specific race and then you leave?
Mhm. So normally you go up a few heats before your actual race, but I want to say for specifically the 100 backstroke, it was probably around like 5 or 6 heats. Um, I think most events range from those. It was just more like your 50 free, 100 free. Those were a lot higher than the rest of them, but most range around 4 to 6, I would say. Most of the time you go up, especially for something like that, you go up just a few heats before yours. And for this meet specifically, you have to go into a call room and then they sit you in rows of chairs and you, as the heats of swimmers go off, you move up row by row by row until it's your time to go on deck.
Oh, wow, that's a little
Yeah.
scary. That'd be so
Yeah.
nerve-wracking just, like, sitting in a room waiting.
Mhm, mhm.
So they just
I
come
thought it
in
was
and they,
cool
like,
though,
call
because
you when it's your turn?
yeah, yeah. Once you go in, you check in, they'll have to check your capping goggles, make sure they're approved and everything. And you go in, they tell you, double check, your heat and lane. And then from there, you're just sitting and waiting.
Wow. You thought it was
Yeah.
cool, though?
Huh?
You thought that part was cool?
Yeah, because I've always seen it on TV, because sometimes they'll switch into that. They have those live cameras in that room as well. So sometimes they'll switch to those so you can see the like big top swimmers behind. And so actually being in the room where they all got to be too is pretty cool.
No, that's super cool, yeah, and I mean, all these, like, legendary swimmers, like, come
Yeah.
through that same area and go through that same process, like, people who
Mhm.
have, like, been competing in multiple Olympics before that are,
Mhm.
like, continuing their legacies as swimmers, like, you literally were in the same room as them, going through the same process as them,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
which is pretty
crazy.
cool. I know. And so for you, now, like, obviously you have Paris under your belt. Like, do you think that you would aim to maybe compete in LA in 2028?
Yeah, that's the next big goal. Um, and the whole everything about LA seems super exciting. I saw pictures of how they want to make the venue and it looks super cool. So I'd love to get to experience that too and see how well I can do.
Yeah, LA is fun. I when I
Yeah.
was in college spent a semester there and I loved it and I could only imagine, how the setup's going to be for the Olympics. So it's definitely a great
Hmm.
place to have it too. And like I feel like there's something about like the Olympics being in the country that you live in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
that's got to be like special. Like all of the French athletes that were in the Paris Olympics were like, wow, this is like the country that I live in. Like this is so cool.
It was super cool for the French athletes because for a lot of them, the whole stand would start chanting their name,
Yeah.
and hearing them all get so loud for them was actually insane. Like, I've never heard a just pool deck get so loud before. It was crazy.
That's super cool. Like that definitely
Mhm.
helps them to like be motivated to do better in their events and stuff
Oh,
because
for sure.
they're using the crowd to keep them motivated and on track because that
Yeah.
energy that they feel from everybody supporting them must be super cool.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. You would think it was like a football stadium or something with how loud it was getting.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many people like were there a lot of people like because I know the opening ceremony was obviously set up a little bit different. It wasn't in
Mhm.
like a big arena like we typically see the opening ceremony being in. So were there people watching along the whole path that you took during the opening ceremony like spectators? Could you just kind of see like all around you the whole time?
There were tons of people. They were all lining the sides. Every single bridge we were going under, there were people fully across them. And even in some of like the apartment buildings and everything, you could see people out of their windows with whatever flags and everything. It there was an insane amount of people. It was crazy.
That is so cool. I can only imagine that. Yeah, and then the closing ceremony was looked really cool because it was really closed in and everybody was kind of in one place, which was cool.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I wasn't there for that, but from the kids who were still there, they really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it looked from TV like it was pretty cool. What
Yeah.
would you say is like kind of the most challenging part about being an Olympic swimmer?
I feel like one of the big things can be like staying focused on yourself because so many different things are going around and so many super strong, talented athletes are going to be around you. So it's important you don't let what they're doing affect what is true to you and what works for you.
Yeah, and I feel like especially with swimming, like knowing how to
Hmm.
pace yourself in the races is so important too. And if you're
Yeah.
focused too much on everybody else that's in the other lanes, that could get tough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's super important to stick to your own race plan because you know what you're capable of and to trust that and trust your training, everything will hopefully work out.
Yeah, do you have like somebody who trains you individually like outside of your club team that, comes with you to the Olympics, or is it more like you just train more with your teammates?
I train with my teammates. There none of my coaches from home were able to come for the actual games. But one of my coaches, he was able to come to our like pre-games camp. So he was able to coach me throughout that, but he had to go back home afterwards. So
Oh, yeah, no, that's super cool that you were able to have somebody at least there to help ease you
yeah.
into this whole thing because obviously the nerves
Hmm.
are real for sure. So that's really nice at least.
Yeah, yeah. I was super happy he was able to come out.
Um, what would you say your favorite part was about this whole experience, being able to go to Paris, compete in the Olympics, and do your thing, swim your favorite event? Like, what was your favorite part about the whole experience if you had to look back on all the time you were there?
I would say one of three things. Either swimming my actual race, because that was I found that was super fun, super cool. Getting to just watch the other sessions because just the energy in the stadium was so crazy and it was like electric the whole time. That or just making friends my age, like seeing the other swimmers and athletes who were also in such a similar situation to me was super nice.
Yeah, that's cool. People you can relate to that are like, "Oh yeah,
Hmm.
we're so young and we made it here." Like
Yeah,
that's pretty cool and being able to bond over that must be super cool.
yeah, yeah.
So, you are obviously we were talking about this off air a little bit, starting school soon, like after Labor Day, and you are going into your senior year, right?
Yes,
To
yeah.
Attleboro High School. Shout out to
Hmm.
Attleboro, Mass. Those of you who are from there that are listening to the show, as we do have, a lot of Massachusetts people that listen to this show because it's a Massachusetts based podcast. So shout out to all of you that are from there. So what do you think? What's kind of next for you in terms of like college? Are you in the college recruiting process for swimming now?
Right now I'm committed to swim at the University of Florida, so that's super
Oh,
exciting. So looking forward
congratulations.
to that.
That's so
Thank you.
exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's nice because it'll be nice weather down there.
Oh
Like,
my gosh, yeah.
feel like New England winter as if you're in Florida.
Yes, yeah, it'll be so nice.
What was it that kind of drew you to that school in particular?
Yeah, I loved all the coaches. All of them were great, and I felt super comfortable with them. And also just the team. I felt super connected with all of them. And while I did get the chance to visit, and I felt that if I were just dropped in among all of them, I would feel comfortable and they would make me feel like I was one with them from that day.
That's so important. You definitely want to feel like you're going to be able to fit in there and, get along with the people that you're
Hmm.
swimming with and just feeling like it's a good environment for you to be in. Because if you're going to spend 4 years there, you want to be happy there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so then obviously 2024, we mentioned you hopefully competing in 2028. So over the next 4 years, have you set goals in terms of maybe trying to like get a better time if you compete again in 2028? Like, do you have some of those goals for the next Olympics in mind?
Yeah, I do want to get better times. I don't have exact time goals right now, but I'm just gonna train and work as hard as I can and see what I'm capable of.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And obviously, being in the situation you're in and still having like so much time and you've already accomplished so much, like it's got to be exciting to know like I can go back and have this experience again in 4 years, and you'll be a little bit older and you will have already gotten your feet wet with competing in an Olympics, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. It
Um
definitely sets me up better for next time around.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I think swimming's such a fun sport and it takes so much endurance. Like it's so impressive
Mhm.
to see like just, all the strength that really goes into competing at a high level in swimming. I mean, I used to be a runner and I thought that took a lot of endurance, but then I watched people swimming in the pool and racing these events and I'm like, yeah, never mind. Like this makes running look like it's a lot easier, you know, because
Yeah,
there's such a
I still
strength.
can't run. Yeah. Put me in a pool, I'm fine, but I don't do land that much.
Really? That's so funny. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I always figured swimmers would be good at running because they're
Eh,
used to the endurance.
I've never been the best. I played field hockey for a bit, but that was the extent of, like, the land sports that I did.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so if you had to give advice to people who want to be in your shoes and want to make it to the Olympics and compete, what would that advice be?
I would say it's super important to keep working at your dreams, and even those days where you don't really wanna do anything, make sure you're even if it's just 1% better than you were the day before, try and make that 1%. But most importantly, just have fun and enjoy what you're doing because it can be a lot mentally sometimes, but it's important to remember why you're going for what you're going for and just have fun and then enjoy it.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the mental aspect because I feel like that's the most challenging part about being an athlete in any professional type of setting is like
Yeah, for
there's going to be
sure.
so many days where you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, what
Mhm.
am I doing? And then you just have to be able to have that mindset of I can do this and, pushing through those mental hurdles that are involved with it.
Yeah, like, I've definitely gone through a bunch of, like, mental rough spots, due to sometimes feeling stagnant or just not doing as well as I hope to do, but it's I need to remember to live in the moment. One race is one race, and once it's past, and there's nothing I can do to fix that and to just go back and work for better.
Yeah, no, that's great advice for sure. I mean, and that's we can kind of take into anything we do. That lesson is just
Yeah.
like give 100% and find something you love and continue to pursue that because big things could come for you if you do. And obviously those big things have started to come for you. And,
Mhm.
I'll be definitely looking forward to the rest of your journey here as you kind of progress through the rest of your high school career into college and hopefully seeing you out in LA for the 2028 Olympics, which is gonna be here before we know it. I feel like 4
Yeah.
years flies by, especially from your perspective with all the
Mhm.
training and everything that you're gonna be doing in the meantime.
Yes, yeah. It's a lot shorter than it seems.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. Well, I really do appreciate you coming on the show with me for sure. And, it's always cool to kind of hear about people's stories who have just accomplished so much in such a short period of time. And I think your story is super inspirational to people who, really want to get to where you're at and be like, I can hopefully do that too. Like, I want to be where she is. And so I think it's cool for you that you're serving as a role model to kids younger than you that want to compete in the Olympics as well.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad I can be in that position because it not all people have that opportunity to have someone to look up to, so
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, thank you so much. You've been great. I wish you the absolute best of luck with everything moving forward and your career here and in swimming. And I hope everything goes well for you. And I'll be rooting for you for sure.
Yeah, and thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Always appreciate you checking out my show. Everyone, have a great rest of your night or day, depending on when you tune into this. And I will catch you next time.